What are parliamentary privileges? Discuss the need for codifying them. Again, a very important topic, a very underrated topic, I would say, and the need for codifying them. See, all of us know that again, Article 105 of the Indian Constitution talks about the parliamentary privileges, and all of us also know that it has not been properly enumerated anywhere in any legal document or any law or any judicial proclamation with respect to the clarity of parliamentary privileges. And whenever there is uncertainty or that's not clear, it creates a breeding ground for arbitrariness of excessive use of power. And that is why this has been consistently in the news, because it's creates a lot of conflicts with, because of its not being clear. So that is why this question becomes important, and let's see how to go about it. So PYQ pattern, if we see, the powers, privileges and immunities of the parliament and its members as envisaged in Article 105 of the Constitution leave room for a large number of uncodified and unenumerated privileges to continue. Assess the reason for the absence of legal codification of the parliamentary privileges and how can this problem be addressed. Basically what I just told you, firstly, what are the problems with respect to the non-codification of these privileges, why have they not been codified so far, and how can we create a pathway to overcome those challenges and which leads to the codification of the parliamentary privileges. Let's see the approach to the answer. Introduce parliamentary privileges, delve into parliamentary privileges and show both positive and negative aspects, and conclude by suggesting a way forward. Pretty basic, pretty standard. As I told you, whenever you see something constitutional in the question, it's always nice if you can start with the article. As I told you, see, you have to prepare in such a way that whenever you see the word parliamentary privilege, or as in the previous question we saw, the office of governor, the first thing that should come to your mind is the constitution article. I think it's important, it's necessary to know what you're talking about, where it comes from, what is the importance of it. And anything which is mentioned in the constitution invariably becomes important. So I think for questions like this, at least once everyone should go through the BEAR Act. It's a very bulky document. You don't have to read it in its entirety, but selectively you should know, you should have a basic understanding of the constitutional articles. You can use them whenever you feel like, and it's also a great way to revise polity very quickly. If you just read article from fundamental rights, that is article 13, to maybe till the judiciary part of it, that is article 148, I think it's the best way to revise polity very quickly. It also helps you understand the language of the constitution and what it means. So I would suggest that everyone should read the BEAR Act at least once or twice. Anyway, that was an extra tip. Let's see the question. I've already told you why parliamentary privileges are important and how to understand and to approach this question. Let's just look at what the question has given. So all of this is pretty standard. It's covered in your statics courses. What are mentioned in Article 105? What are the parliamentary privileges? Why are they given? So that the MPs and the MLAs can discharge their duties without any influence, without any external coercion, and can be free from being challenged. Their word or their vote cannot be challenged in a court of law. It's a matter of the parliament. Judiciary cannot interfere here. So it's also a testament to the separation of powers and to the ingenious of our constitution makers, and what kind of collective and individual privileges are available to the MPs. All of this you already know. Let's move on to the next. You can see then this just mentions the parliamentary privileges. Then the need for codification, why it is important to codify certain parliamentary privileges, again, for transparency, to avoid arbitrariness, to ensure what is right, what is wrong, so that excessive power or misuse cannot happen. See, public awareness, transparency, consistency, judicial scrutiny, accountability, prevents misuse of power. All of this is pretty basic and logical. Then challenges in codification, why it had not been codified till now, after 75, 80 years of independence almost. That is loss of flexibility, difficult in defining scope, conflict with fundamental rights, political resistance. See, the biggest factor here in this entire, why it has not been codified so far, is something called as the conflict of interest, basically. Because who will codify them? The judiciary cannot interfere. I already made it clear, right? And then the lawmakers, that is basically the legislators, why will they create any law which is going to restrain their power? Nobody wants to create any law which is going to restrain their power or their influence or the the way they discharge their duties. And it's very difficult to overcome that political resistance in order to codify the parliamentary privileges. So all of these points are correct. But the basic reason of why it has not been codified so far is because of this conflict of interest. Only the lawmakers can do that. And why will the lawmakers create rules or laws which will curtail their power or which will curtail their freedom of speech somewhere? So that is why, that is the major reason. But obviously all of these factors are important as well, and these are manifestations of the same thing. So I hope this makes sense and it's clear to everyone. Then in the way forward, you can again write what is to be written. Codify core privileges, establish regional limits. You can form an independent committee consisting of judiciary, legislative as well as executive members. Strengthen parliamentary ethics. Uniform framework for center and states. Learn from global best practices. Pretty standard, pretty basic. You can go